In this week's videos, we'll be taking a look at many of Revit's editing tools. There are quite a few tools, so we'll break the videos up into 3 different parts. Let's take a look at part number 1. The first thing I'd like to discuss is the Revit shortcut keys. These are hotkeys or shortcut keys that consist of a 2-key stroke, so therefore you don't have to hit return after the keystrokes. And these are to invoke a command. For example, a wall command can be selected by using the icon up at the ribbon up here and selecting the icon, or you can type in the hotkey WA, and that also invokes the wall command. If you hover over one of the commands in the ribbon, you can see that just to the right of the name of the command, in this case wall, you'll see a WA, which is for the shortcut key. Or for door, you can see that it is DR. Revit comes with quite a few hotkeys by default. However, Revit also allows the user to define his own hotkey keys so he can customize it to his best advantage. To customize the hotkeys, we'll go to the View tab, and over at the far right end we'll see the user interface. If you click on that and go to the bottom, you will see where you can get to keyboard shortcuts. In this dialog box, you can see the commands listed on the left with the shortcuts. Not all of the commands have shortcut keys or hotkeys, but many of them do. And then the path that takes them there. So if you wanted to type in a command to find it in this list, you would do that at the top, WALL for wall, and it automatically takes you to that command and shows you the shortcut keys or the hotkeys that are already assigned. You can see that WA or WW are the 2 forms of hotkeys for the command wall. You can highlight one of those, say the WW, and remove it. And so no longer does WW take you to the wall command. You can assign new hotkeys for the commands by typing them in here. Say we wanted to add a different 2-key stroke for wall. Maybe it's WS. And we type it in here and hit assign. And now if we type in WA or WS, we'll get to the wall command. Hit OK, and we can type in WS, and you can see that it takes us to the wall command. The next thing I'd like to discuss is hitting the escape key. I personally use, when using Revit, I keep my left hand on the keyboard and my right hand on the mouse. My left hand is always touching the escape key. This is because that key you use often to get out of commands or clear the selection and start all over. Let's take a look at what I mean. If I go back to the wall command, WA, I'm in the wall command, and you can see that if the chain box is selected, when I click and drag and click and drag and click and drag, I'll continue making new wall segments. Click, drag, click, and instead of that wall segment being done and me starting a new one somewhere else, because of this chain command, it's going to continue on. Well, to get out of this chain command, if I hit escape once, I now can start a new wall, because even though I'm out of the chain, I'm still within the wall command, and I can start over and keep doing the same thing as I did before. So to get out of the wall command, I'll need to hit escape to get out of the chain, and then hit escape again to get out of the wall command. I always tell my students, if you're stuck within a command, hit escape 7 times, and then that's for sure to let you get out of the command. The next thing we'll talk about is how to select elements within Revit. I'm going to go ahead and delete these walls and build some new walls, and in this case we'll build a rectangular wall. I'm also going to go ahead and create a floor in this wall. As you can see in 3D view, we've got 4 walls and a floor. We'll go back to our floor plan view. I'll go ahead and add a couple doors so we can see how to really clarify how we're going to make certain selections. These doors came with their tags, as we learned about last week. The first type of selection is the easiest one. You hover over an object in Revit and it highlights, and if you left click, it is now selected. You know it is selected by several ways. 1, it's blue and selected. 2, you see these blue dimensions, which are temporary dimensions. 3, you can see that the properties dialog box shows the properties of that object that is selected. And last, you can see over here in the filter selection that one object has been selected. You can click on the funnel or the filter, and it'll show you that one door has been selected. We can add to this selection by holding down the Control key. When I hold down the Control key, you see a little plus by the cursor. That means I can add to my selection. And as long as these doors that I've selected are the same type, the Type Properties dialog box will remain the same. If I had a different door, only the properties that were common within those different types of doors would show up over here. Again, we can look at our funnel or our filter, and we can see that 3 doors have been selected. Let's continue on. If we hold the Control, we can add a couple walls. You can see over in the Properties dialog box that the only common parameters between these 2 walls and these 3 doors that have been selected are the phase created and the phase demolished. The image, comments, and mark have not been filled in, but they also can be in common. Lastly, if we look at the funnel again, we can see that 2 walls have been selected and 3 doors have been selected. Now we can use this dialog box to specify or narrow down our selection. If we want just the walls, we can uncheck the doors, hit apply, and we can see that the doors are no longer selected. We know that because they're no longer highlighted. Hit OK, and now we know that only the 2 walls are in our selection set. Again, we can hit Control, add those doors back in. We can see that 5 objects are selected, so the 3 doors and the 2 walls. If we hit the Shift key, you see a minus sign next to the cursor. This is how we subtract selections from our selection group, or subtract objects from our selection group. I'm going to go ahead and hit Escape to get out of any selection. You can see over here that we now have no objects in our selection group. Another way to select objects in Revit is with a picking box. If you go from left to right, let me back up. To create a picking box, you left click in the window area and you drag, meaning you keep the left mouse button down all the way until you are at the extent that you want your picking box to be, and then you let go of the left button, and that is a picking box. If you go from left to right, like I just did, the selection group will only consist of objects that are totally within the picking box. In this instance, you can see that the 3 doors and the 3 tags are totally within the picking box. However, the 2 walls that are intersecting the picking box are not highlighted. As soon as I continue on and I get the entire length of that upper wall within my picking box, it is now highlighted. If I let go of my left mouse button, I have now selected the wall, the 3 doors, and the 3 tags, which equal 7 objects. If I click on the funnel, you can see that there are 3 door tags, 3 doors, and 1 wall that are selected. If I hit escape, I have now no selections. A picking box going from right to left will be dashed. And the difference is that any object that this picking box is in contact with or has fully encapsulated will be part of the selection group. So it does not need to totally encompass the object, it just needs to touch it. You can see that the upper wall here and the wall on the right hand side are highlighted because this picking box is touching them. If I let go, you can see that the floor, the two walls, these two doors and the two door tags are all selected. I'm going to hit escape, get out of that selection. The next type of selection I'm going to talk about is the chain command. If I hover over one of the walls, and because the walls are all in a chain, if I hover over one of the walls and I hit the tab key, it will select all four. If I click, let me back up, escape. If I hover over one wall and I hit the tab key, it highlights all four. Then I can left click and select all four walls. So the tab key will cycle through objects that are close to each other, including going from one wall, if I hit tab here, to a chain of walls as I hit tab. Let's try one more exercise with the tab key. I'm going to zoom in here. Now, if we look down in the lower left-hand corner, once I start hovering over an object and hit tab, if we look here, it will show us what we will select if we hit the left mouse button. I'm going to hit escape. And now if I hover over the door, you can see in the left-hand corner of the screen that the doors is being shown, that will be the object that's selected if I click. Same as if I go to the tag or the wall, or if I hit tab, the chain of walls. And this line here is the floor. Now, if I zoom in and I get near an intersection of several different objects, in this case the door, the wall, the floor, and maybe even the tag, if I'm here, and if I hit tab once, you can see that it cycles from the door to the door tag. I'll hit tab again, and now it highlights the floor. If I hit tab again, it's now back to the door. Now it's to the wall. Now it's to the chain of walls. Now it's back to the door. So the tab key will cycle through the objects that your cursor is near until you reach the one that you want to select. And you do that by hitting the left mouse button. The last type of selection that I will talk about is selecting all instances. If I select one door, and then I hover over that door and right click, in this dialog box you can see select all instances. As I hover over that option, you get two more options, visible in the view or in the entire project. If I'd like to select all of the doors of that same type, I can say visible in view, and you can see that all three doors are now highlighted. Now let's move on to the control bar, the view control bar. The view control bar is this down here. Let's go through most of these icons. The first one is the scale. To illustrate what the scale does, I will add some text right in the middle, and I'll just type in room. And as you can see, if I highlight this text, it's a 1/4 inch Arial. That means if I print this out to the right scale, the height of this text will be 1/4 of an inch. However, if I change the scale to 1/2 inch, you can see that even though the walls are still 39 feet apart, the room text got much smaller in relation to the outside walls. Let's go back to 1/8 scale, and you can see that It's still 39 feet from wall to wall, though the text room has grown. Let's delete that. Moving on, we get to the detail, the model view detail. If you click on this, you can see that it's coarse, medium, or fine. And this describes the way that you would see the model. Let's change one of these walls to something that'll illustrate this. We change that exterior wall to brick and CMU on metal stud. If, like we are now, are set to the coarse model view, you can see that you see one little extra line for the brick and then just 2 lines for the wall. But as you delve into a medium or fine scale view, you can start to see the different materials that make up the wall. Moving on, we get to the visual style. If you click on this, you can see that you can get to, there are different ways you can look at the model. To best illustrate this, we'll look at a 3D view. Let's go to wireframe, the very first one. That basically means you can see through all of the solid objects. You just see the boundaries. Next is hidden line, which is a black and white. You don't see through the walls, and you see patterns that are on certain wall types. Shaded gives you color and some shading. Consistent colors gives you the colors without the shading. Realistic shows you a realistic view. You can see that the brick and the precast concrete sill look more realistic in this style. The generic gray wall does not look realistic because it has not been assigned a material. And finally, you have ray trace, which is even a more enhanced way of looking at your model and appears more realistic. Let's go back to hidden view. Let's skip to shadows. You can turn them on and off. This teapot is the rendering icon that will open up a rendering dialog box. The next 2 icons are in relation to the crop view. One shows you the crop view, and the other one will either crop the view or not. Let's take a look. I'm going to skip to the one with a little light bulb and this is the icon that toggles the show crop region to not showing the crop region. The crop region is this box around your view. If you highlight that box, you get grips. If you bring that grip to within the object that you're looking at in your view, you can see that it crops the view. So you no longer see this corner of the object, the building, because it is being cropped. This is the crop region. And using the icon with the light bulb either shows you the boundary or not. It is a toggle on and off. Whether it is on or off makes no difference on if you're going to crop the view. The icon to the left of that is what controls if you're going to crop the view. It also is a toggle. If you turn it off, it no longer crops the view. And even though you can see the boundary, the view now goes past that boundary. You can see the building even beyond this boundary. So again, the light bulb icon shows you the boundary or hides the boundary. And the icon to the left of it either crops the view to that boundary or it doesn't crop the view at all. The last icon that we'll look at on the view control bar down here will be these sunglasses right here. And this is the hide isolate icon. What it does is it allows you to select an object, and if you click on those, you can do 4 things to that object. You can hide the element, and now you can see that it is no longer there. I'm going to reset, and that's also by the sunglasses at the bottom. If I highlight it and go back to the sunglasses, I can isolate that element. So all the other elements go away except for that one. Reset, highlight my wall again. The last two are by categories. So if I hide the category, then all the walls will disappear. And lastly, if I isolate the category, then only the walls are left being shown. Now when you use the sunglasses or the temporary hide isolate tool, you know that some objects are being hidden by the use of the temporary hide isolate tool because of this blue boundary. This is an indicator that something is being hidden. You can always get back to showing everything by going to the sunglasses and resetting the temporary hide isolate tool. Or you can type in HR and that gets you back. If you like the way the view looks with something hidden, let's say you need to show something without this wall being shown, so we're going to hide that element, and this you need on your drawings, then you might want to go back to the sunglasses and apply this to the view. And as soon as you hit that, the blue border goes away and this is a permanent view now with that object being hidden. Once you apply a hide view setting to the view, the reset no longer works. But you might want to get that wall back. That's where the next icon comes in, the reveal hidden elements. It looks like a little light bulb and is right next to the sunglasses. If you click on that, you get a red border, and this is an indicator that the reveal hidden elements is on. And you can see that the object that was hidden, in this case the wall, now has a red border. You can hover over it and right-click, and you can unhide and view the element. And as soon as you click on that and click on the open space, you can see that it no longer has a red border, which means when you turn the toggle of this light bulb, the close reveal hidden elements, it is now being shown again. Let's take a quick look at two more tools for this video. One is the resize tool. If you're familiar with AutoCAD, the resize tool is very similar to the scale command. The resize tool in Revit only works on several things. For instance, it only works on walls or lines or images, drawings or DXF imports. I use this tool often when I bring in an image of a floor plan and I need to scale it to be the correct scale in a drawing. But let's take a look at a wall. If we wanted to resize this wall, one way we could do it is typing in RE for resize. We need to select the wall and then hit the space bar. Once we've done that, we can pick a base point. Then we'll pick a moving point. And after we click there, as we get closer, we'll resize that wall. And the last tool that I'll want to show you is a section tool. This is for a view. So we'll go to the View tab, and then we'll go to the Create panel, and we'll select Section. When we click on Selection, if we look over in our project browser, there's no view category for sections. But if we click, drag, and click, you can see that as soon as we click and create a section icon, it shows up here. Now this section, if I double click on the blue, this is one thing about Revit. Anything blue on the screen means you can either edit it or it is active. In this case, we can double click on the section cut and it'll take us to that view. And now we're looking at that section cut. WT tiles the windows, and you can see here that this section shows us the section cut. If I go to my 3D view really quickly and I create a roof, you can see that it now shows up in the section cut. One thing to remember, that Revit is a BIM model, meaning that if I move that section cut, or one of the meanings of that is if I move that section cut, the section automatically updates. If I move it here, you can see that the roof changes. If I bring it in front of the ridge line, now I can see the outside of this roof as it extends away from us, but I can also see where the roof is cut. One thing I wanted to show you on the section cut is you can split this section, and if I click this, I can move one side of the section closer or farther away, and you can see how it affects the view.